Hey everyone, welcome to another BIM After Dark live. This is Tuesday night, which is kind of strange. It's been Thursday night for the past 13 weeks. As some of you may know, I had a little emergency last week, so one of the things I learned there is when you're doing a live show, if you can't be there live, then the show can't go on. So I appreciate those of you who came back on Tuesday to check it out. I am also going to have a live show on Thursday with a special guest, and we'll talk about that at the end. But I want to thank you guys all for coming. If it's your first time here, welcome to the channel. Make sure that session is. So today's pretty exciting. There's a lot of things going on, but this is going to be a little bit of a different format. Well, I guess it'll be a different format, but the content will be just as valuable. And so for those of you that don't know, I have a website. My name is Jeff. I'm the Revit Kid. So I've been blogging at therevitkid.com for many, many years. But I also have a bunch of full-length courses. And recently, all those courses have been packaged up into a community platform called BIM After Dark. And as of last week, BIM After Dark is live. So if you're interested, definitely check it out. You can sign up, and it's at community.bimafterdark.com. And what you get with that community is quite a few things. So what I wanted to do before I jump into the content and what we're going to talk about today and all of my really awesome special guests is I did want to just show you guys what BIM After Dark is all about. So BIM After Dark is a community platform where not only do you get all of the courses, so I offer 4 courses about presentation techniques, making documents with Revit, making families with Revit, and then Dynamo. So you'll get those 4 full-length courses, and all of those courses have sample files. They have the ability to chat and comment and reach out to other people taking the courses as well as myself, which is pretty awesome. There's full-on chats with the actual course, and you can keep track. So it's a nice platform for all these courses to be in there. We also have a community platform, which is probably one of the most exciting pieces of this. So if you are sitting there right now and you're scratching your head and you're struggling with something in Revit, which I know you all are because we all are every single day, it's a location where you can go on, and you can see here we've had lots of discussions. You can go on, you can ask questions, you can reach out to other members. Other members will reply, as you can see here, and it really becomes a hub for you to get unfiltered, with less noise, Revit help basically, as well as connect with really, really cool people. And then on the other side of that, or another thing that you get with all of this is actually I host what are called office hours. And so community office hours are private office hours for you as part of the community. And so something we're going to do today, which is different but pretty neat, is I thought it'd be really, really fun to invite some of my members of the community that are in there now in BIM After Dark to hang out with you guys, but also we're going to have an office hour. So we're basically going to take you on the inside of what it looks like to be part of BIM After Dark and be part of the office hour. So another thing, also you may notice I have a new T-shirt on today. I'm not wearing the noob expert one. So I did actually finally set up a shop for some of the merch, because I know a lot of people have been asking about shirts. And so there's a bunch of different designs. The 2 major designs are these right here, which is learning Revit together. It's the community icons, which is pretty sweet. And then I did have to sort of remake the Lock Noob one because I couldn't find, or the Noob Expert one, because I couldn't find my original Photoshop file. So that you can find at shop.bimafterdark.com. So without further ado, first I'm going to introduce everyone by clicking this button here. So we've got a whole bunch of people on the line here. We've got Tom and Chris and Mark and Angelo. What's going on? Oh, Jerry's here. I wasn't sure Jerry was going to make it. How's it going, Jerry? So what you guys are going to see today, you guys on YouTube, I should say, is you're going to get a glimpse inside sort of what it looks like to be part of the membership, part of the community, and part of an office hour, which is time dedicated where myself and everyone else sort of, we usually rant about one topic, and it's not just me spitting out advice, but it also, hey, Paul's there too. Hey, Paul. Paul's driving in his car. Nice. So it's not just me spitting out advice, but it's also other members giving each other advice, which is great. And so today's topic, if you haven't seen the thumbnail on YouTube or any of the content, is design options. And so within the community, we usually ask ahead of time sort of what's on your mind, what are you struggling with, and the members themselves will give ideas, and then kind of what the most popular idea or kind of what jives with what we're talking about becomes the content. So I know everyone's muted right now, but maybe if everyone wants to wave real quick and say hi, say hi to everybody out on YouTube. And then you guys on YouTube, this is live, as you know. This session this show is always live. So feel free to ask questions as you're going along. It's going to be a little unique because we're going to have discussions here, but at the same time, I want you guys to ask questions live, just like we always do. So with that being said, I'm going to jump right into a little bit of pre-made content, sort of set up with the idea of design options, and then we'll flip back to the community group here, and I'm sure you guys have questions. You guys here from the community, you're all muted now, but as I'm going along, I won't see you, so if you have a question or you want to jump in, just unmute yourself and speak out, and then everyone will be like, whoa, what happened with my ears? But I think I have the audio set, so we'll find out. Yeah, so hopefully it doesn't blow anyone's ears out, but whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump a little bit into just an introduction on design options. We'll start there. I have sort of 3 or 4 examples of kind of the way that I use them and how to define them. And I'm sure between the YouTube channel and you guys here from the community, I'm sure we'll go in a million different directions, which is perfect. It's fine. It's no problem at all. Any questions yet? You guys good? Everyone, you guys can hear me here in the community, right? Sweet. All right. And I think everyone can hear us out there. Dylan said you to goat. Thanks, bud. Oh, man. Oh, we got someone from East Haven, Connecticut. Cool. What's up, man? It's another Connecticut local. Awesome. All right. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is this is going to be unique because I'm going to have to share my screen with you guys on the community as well as everyone else out there. So bear with me for a second here. Sharing screen 1. All right. You guys can see yourselves on my screen, right? Perfect. Awesome. So then you should see Revit now, hopefully. And as I said, I can't see you now in the BIM After Dark community, so make sure that if you have a question you want to chime in, just unmute yourself and say hello. I think you can. Make sure you can unmute yourself. Can someone just unmute and talk without my permission, just so I know?
Yeah.
Sweet. Thanks, Tom.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey.
Hey, Jeff.
What's up, Jerry? Awesome. So you guys can unmute yourself. Perfect. So kind of cool. As I sat there thinking about design options, I thought it was a really good topic. You know, sometimes we get into really, really nitty gritty stuff in the community itself. I think the last one we did was the electrical plans and RCPs and stuff, which was really cool. We had some great conversations. I was trying when I think Jerry might have suggested it, but everyone's kind of chimed in a little bit. When he suggested design options, I thought it was just a good one that can marry up the two happy hour and office hour things. So I appreciate that suggestion. Hello, Shamila on YouTube. What's up? What's up? Okay. So what I wanted to do was kind of break down. I came up with sort of 5 different ways that I use design options pretty frequently, and sort of I think each one of these examples will probably answer a bunch of questions you may have about design options. But before I actually do that, actually, you know what? Maybe I should show my face here too. Huh? Let's do. No, I don't think I'm going to be able to show my face. Oh, you guys will see my face, but not YouTube. Sorry, YouTube. Okay. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to see my face. Sorry, YouTube. That's all right. I'll flip back to my face every once in a while. Okay, so as far as design options are concerned, I wanted to just first introduce them a little bit. So the the simplest concept to understand when it comes to design options is something like massing studies. And so what I have in this file here is you can see there's an existing site. Then I have a bunch of different masses: simple, crazy, and a little crazier. Okay, so depending on your knowledge of Revit and how you've approached something like this, you may do a few different things. You may model them all in place and hide them. You may save as a different file. You may copy your site along and have different ones. But I've seen everyone do all kinds of crazy stuff. But the cool thing about design options is they are exactly what they sound like. You have the ability to design multiple options within the same location or project. Okay, and so I like using the mass idea because it's the easiest form of what a design option is to understand. Okay, so where do they exist and what and how do you set them up? Okay, so under your Manage tab, if you go to Design Options, right now if you went to a brand new file, there'd be nothing there. As you can see, I have one set of options. Okay, so right now it's called Option Set Building Mass. So the way that option sets work is whatever it is that you're designing or having multiple versions of, those are going to want to be dumped into a set, and then there's options within it. So this is pretty simple, right? There's a mass, so that's my whole set is going to be all these versions of a single mass, and then within that I'm going to have different options. So I have 1, 2, 3, and you'll notice I actually have one called empty. So if I didn't have one called empty, there'd always be one of these versions on. But what you can do is you could make a mass and not have anything in it, or make an option and not have anything in it, so then it's not there, which is pretty cool. And what I'll show you, and I think this might have been a question that came out of the community in general, is if you want to put things, let's say you're not using work sets, or you have no way of filtering or visibility, or it's a pain in the butt in your specific project, one way to use design options is to actually put them in a set or in an option, and then have an empty option so that you hide them. And I have an example for that coming up, so don't get too far ahead. But when I jump into like an example like this, where this is a little modern house here that I designed, or it's a renovation actually, I should say. And you'll notice that I have a couple options in here. So if I go down the bottom, this is how you can filter through your options. But if I go to Manage, Design Options, you can see I have two option sets. Okay, one of them is actually a bunch of options for a powder room in this house. The other one is a bunch of options for this roof. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly filter through them. And notice how there's sets. One of the sets is roofs, and the other sets are plans. So that's how you can sort of categorize what you're doing. So whatever it is that you're kind of designing and tinkering with, that's what you're going to want to be in one set. Right? It doesn't make sense to put the roofs in the same set as the powder rooms, because obviously you have to have one on or off. It'd be kind of confusing, right? K Peace just asked in the chat to please record and share the video. He has to go to sleep, or she has to go to sleep in the UK. So thanks for that. I just, for everyone who's here, the YouTube, I automatically record them, and they will be live on the channel, or they will be viewable on the channel right when we end here. So just subscribe to my YouTube channel, come back to the YouTube channel, or go to the revitkid.com. I'll have a replay posted there too. So there we go. All right, so let me just quickly flip through. So the roofs, you'll notice primary option is what you're seeing. Option 2, you can see there's a little bit of a difference here, and then option 3 just had different siding. So really it was just 1 and 2. And what you'll notice is that if I went across and I dragged and selected, you'll notice that a lot of stuff ended up being part of this option. So what I wanna kind of start with before I jump into the exact examples and show you how to set them up is one of the biggest things when it comes to, let me just go back to my face for a little bit. So whoa, I just got that crazy, let me go back to here. Okay. All right. So one of the things that you're gonna want to pay attention to when it comes to options, or be wary of, is that the biggest issue with options is that hosted elements need to exist within the option set, the options themselves. So a really simple explanation, or a really simple thing to understand, would be like a window, right? So if this roof, as you noticed here, if I go through option 2, so if these roofs are attached to this wall, or this wall is attached to this roof is part of the option, that means the wall has to be part of the option. If the windows are hosted to the wall, and the wall is hosted to the roof, well, guess what? Now the window and the walls all have to be part of the option. So I'm going to dig into this in a second, but the first thing you need to know about options is that you have to be really, really wary about hosting and how they work. So before I jump into that, I think I went ahead a little bit. Let me go back to this massing idea. The reason I jumped into that one is because I wanted to show you option sets and how there's 2 of them. So with massing and setting them all up, it's pretty simple. So I have under Manage and Design Options, I have option 1, 2, and 3, and then empty. So if I wanted to make a new option, so let's say there's a couple things I could do. I could create a new option right here, and I could call it option 4, or I could duplicate an option, and that would actually duplicate all the elements in it. I'm actually going to create one from scratch. One thing I will mention, so let's do option 4, and we'll call this one live mass. One thing I will mention is that for whatever reason, Autodesk doesn't give us the ability to move and reorder options, which stinks, right? Because as you can imagine, if I want to do like an option 2A, I can duplicate this, and it goes down here, and I rename it 2A, funky mass, or twisting mass 2. And there's no way to put 2A up next to 2. It's just the nature of the beast. I don't know why. It's always been that way, and hopefully one day maybe it changes. But so for now, you just have to deal with the fact that your options will always be in an annoying order. So now I created a new option called option 4. Nothing's in it. And if I go down here, which is your option selector, if I go to option 4, you'll notice everything else that's not in the option becomes gray. I can't select it. I can't do anything with it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is jump out to my default 3D view. I'm going to make sure I'm in option 4. So you need to have the option activated. Okay. So you could do it up here under manage or down here on the right under option 4. And now whatever I model, whatever I create is in option 4 only. That's where it exists. That's where it's always going to exist until you move it out of there. Okay. So if I wanted to quickly create a mass, let's just say I wanted to do some weird tall, skinnier building. I'm just going to go under massing in site. I'm going to do a quick in-place mass. I'm going to call this one tall building. We won't talk about too much of the actual massing issues, but so I'm just going to draw a rectangle. I'm going to make sure I'm using I'll use level 2 is fine. I'm going to draw it on a work plane so I'm not locking to anything. This is key. So notice how I just said draw it on a work plane. You want to know why I did that? Remember I went back, I mentioned all this crap about hosting. Well, if I was to draw on surface and I did this, it's actually hosting to that pad, right? See how it's highlighting the pad? Well, guess what? If I tried to get out of this mass, I could draw it all day long, but if I tried to get out of this mass, it's probably going to give me an error. Let's see. Of course it didn't. So make me a liar. That's okay. So for now, we'll just do set and draw. Rectangle. Make sure I'm drawing on level 2. All right, so let's just say for whatever, this is kind of our tower here. So I'm just drawing a rectangle. I'm going to create form. If you guys aren't familiar with the massing environment, maybe one day I'll do a fun massing setup. So we're going to make a nice tall tower here. And maybe just for fun, I'm going to select this tower. I'm going to turn it X-ray. And then I'm going to start playing with some of the shapes and make it a little funkier. Just because. Because why not? Perfect. So now we got this prism diamond shape thing. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to apply a material to this just because it doesn't really matter if I apply material to it. It's fine. All right, so now that's option 4. There's my prism tower, right? So now if I flip back out to main model, you'll see right now my primary option, which is what it's going to be set by as default, is nothing. It's called the empty option, right? It's this one right here, empty massing. So if I go back to option 1, you can see now I have option 1, option 2, option 3, and now I have option 4. So I have the ability to manage all of these masses, all of these designs within the same model. I don't need to copy paste just to make a bunch of different model things, which is pretty cool, right? That's pretty powerful for those of you who have ever tried doing that and maybe copied your files or did something funky. If you want to dedicate a view to only a specific design option, it's pretty simple. You could, under Visibility Graphics, which is VG or VV on the keyboard, you would just go to Design Options tab. You'll notice it's set to automatic. Once it's set to automatic, that means that it's using the primary. But I can pull down here and I can say, I want this view to always be funky mass. And now you see funky mass. But what you'll notice is that you cannot select funky mass. If I go like this, I can't select my funky mass. So the only way to get into an option, I shouldn't say the only way, there's 2 ways to get into an option. So if I wanted to modify a funky mass, I either go down here and I actually go to option 3 and it activates it and now I can select it. Or if you don't know what option it is for some reason, you can go to Manage, pick to Edit, and then click it. And now you're inside. All right. So any questions so far? I'm gonna read chats while I open back up to you guys over here. See if there's
Hey, Jeff.
any questions. You got it, Jerry. What's up, man?
Hey, just want to let you know there's a bit of a lag with the video,
Okay.
so it seems like you're going a little fast. It's not keeping up with the video
On
output
YouTube or what you're seeing here?
with what I'm seeing.
Okay.
Hey
I
Jeff,
think
I'm looking, I do have it on YouTube on another computer next to me, and it looks fine on YouTube.
Okay.
The lag definitely is on our images, what we're seeing when we're logged in with the meeting, but on YouTube it's coming out fine.
Okay, so I'll try and slow it down a little bit. So my voice and what you're seeing is what the lag is.
you're going, but the video's not keeping up with you.
Okay. It could be just because I'm streaming at the same time as streaming to you guys, and I'm sure I'm destroying the bandwidth in this house. So I apologize. I'll try and go a little slower on for the sake of Jitsi. So were you able to follow along? Any questions on that? Was that? I mean, I know the audio was off, but
Yeah, that's good.
okay, cool, awesome. I'm just checking YouTube real quick to see if there was any questions. It looks like somebody asked about how do you actually here someone had a question that we had in the community, actually, was about scheduling options, so I might as well just jump into that. I guess I wasn't going to jump into that yet, but and then visibility graphics, somebody asked about that, which I showed, which is great. So before I jump into the house example, then, so kind of the top 5 ways that I'm going to show are the diagram options, which I think is the easiest for people to understand because it's pretty simple, right? You have a bunch of sketch diagrams and they're sitting on top of each other. They're moving around, right? Then there's the room layout. So we're going to go in and look at that powder room thing and how that all works. Then the facade options are going to be kind of that roof thing. And then I'll start talking a little bit about how we use it for like site and dare I say phasing type of stuff. And so I'm going to show an example with that because I think that's going to be pretty controversial. So I guess what I'll do, I'll jump right into the scheduling part then, because I think we answered this in the community, which is great. Now we'll answer it for YouTube as well. And if you guys missed the conversation in the community, we'll show that. So again, I'll try my best to pace myself. All right. Do you guys on Jitsi here, do you see my screen now? Do you see yourselves on my screen or not yet? Soon?
No, we don't.
Okay.
It's a
you're
gray
frozen
screen.
right now.
All right. Let's try this again.
Okay.
I see Jerry.
See you.
You see me. Share. Any better?
Yeah.
Well, we're seeing everyone's faces.
Okay. Yeah. And then you'll see Revit now.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, I think I'm just killing the bandwidth. I think Jitsi on top of streaming to YouTube is maybe it's also because there's more people. I mean, when I normally do the interviews and stuff, it's one other person. Maybe that has something to do with it too. But okay. So as far as scheduling options, it's actually fairly simple. I think what somebody asked in YouTube was scheduling it when you don't accept the option. So a lot of people think that you have to accept the option, get rid of them all, and then that's how your schedule would work. So what I'll do is I'll show you what this powder room options look like. So this is a house renovation. Actually, I should probably introduce you a little bit to the project. Let me go up here, first floor. Ooh, what is that? Hidden line. Here we go. So this was an addition to a house. If I go to show previous plus new, get a sense of it. So you could see, actually it wasn't an addition as it was more of just modifying the roof and changing the wall over here. But there was a rework of sort of the spaces in this zone. This walk-in closet, master bedroom, and so on, it originally looks like this. So this is actually the original kitchen, and then there's a living room, and it was just tough. So it was a weird layout, very, very strange, mid-century modern layout. Actually, if I show all, maybe you'll see it. Doesn't want to show demo. That's okay. So previous plus new. All right, so what we explored here was this awkward powder room. There's a couple options in this powder room. So before I actually go into the options, the easiest way to schedule an option. So let's say for whatever reason I wanted to do, I'll do a room schedule, which I don't know if I have in my template already. Let's see, maybe I do. Here, room area by department, room finish. Let's just do room area by department. Bunch of not placed rooms, that's fine. So you can see here, down here on the, these are kind of the main floor rooms, from master bedroom to powder room here. So the powder room itself is probably what's going to change. And so in the schedule, you have to go to visibility graphics override, which is right here. So what you guys will notice, and again, another weird Revit thing, if you type VG or VV in a schedule, it doesn't open visibility graphics. But if you click over here where it says edit, it opens visibility graphics, because really the only visibility graphic override you have apparently in a schedule is the design option. But so if you click here, you can actually change the design option to something else. So if I click here and click apply, you can see there's an option conflict, but I think I have multiple same rooms. You can see the numbers all set up there, so we won't get into what an option conflict is. Let me jump back to another one here. All right, so that's how you would flip through options. Rooms are probably a bad idea because there's issues when it comes to the rooms, but you'd have to name them different names and stuff like that. It's kind of goofy, but the reality is if you were doing wall takeoffs, areas, whatever, that's how you would do it. You want to set your visibility graphics and go for it. One thing I will say is using design options if you're working with a contractor or handing your models off when you're moving forward, maybe throughout the process, is that unless you tell the contractor or the subcontractor what options they should use, I can tell you from experience, we're going to accept primary. So our life becomes a lot easier on the contractor side if there's no design options, just for the sake of using the data in the model. And so we tell all the design teams at Turner when we're getting our models, if you don't tell us which one it is, we're going to accept primary and remove all the options from the model. So just a little fair warning there. It's great to have them, they're great to use, but moving forward, you may end up, when you're handing models over to certain people, you may end up wanting to accept primary. Or set primary, whatever one you like, and so on. Okay, so sorry, I'm just reading a couple of the chats here. Anything good in there? No. Okay, so what I have here is for room layout. So I have a powder room here, but what you'll notice is if I try and drag select, by the way, those of you on the call from the community, I will be sharing these files, these sample files within the community afterwards. So you'll have access to this house and the other files, so you can dig through them later. You'll notice if I try and drag across here, I can't select any of these walls. These walls are all part of a design option. So if I go to option A, or option 1 primary, so you'll notice that all these walls, I guess I ended up putting a kitchen as part of the options too, probably because of the design of this corner. So all these walls ended up being part of the option for this powder room, and that just goes down the order of yeah, I just want to change this wall, and this wall. But then as you start doing it, you realize, well, this wall, and this wall are hosted to the other walls and certain other walls. So you notice that even these existing have to be part of the options. So the biggest complaint I have when it comes to using design options, if I drag across here, you can see all of this stuff is part of the option, is that Revit is really finicky about what's hosted to what. So this powder room option, for example, these walls are hosted to this wall, so this wall has to be part of that. Or these moved, actually, I think, so it's not the greatest example. But if there's a door in here that gets demoed, for example, during the option, now all of a sudden this wall has to be part of the option. As you can see here, I split this and demoed it. So what usually happens if you're familiar with design options or using them, is they start expanding and sort of taking over your model, so to speak. So you have to be really wary of that. So like right now, for example, this powder room option, if I wanted to add a new design, so let's just say I wanted to add a new design to this. So if I go to option A, maybe this is probably the more simple one. So I have a couple of ways to go about it. I can just create a blank option from scratch and see what happens. So if I go in here and I have to get out of this. So if I go to my design options and I create a new option within here and I rename it option C, powder room. Notice how you can't renumber these and stuff, so it gets a little confusing. You have to, it sucks, but it is what it is. So this was, a kitchen door difference, and looking back on this from 3 years ago, I'm like, what the hell are these options? But so now if I go into option C, what you'll notice is that this whole floor plan is empty because all that stuff is part of other options, right? So what you need to do is you either need to remodel these pieces or you need to copy them from other options into it, which is kind of annoying. So what I would typically do on this is if I knew that I was, let's say I'm redesigning option A a little bit here, your best bet is actually to take it and duplicate it. And what's going to happen is it's actually going to duplicate all the elements into a new option. And I'll call this option D, powder. And now if I go into option D, powder, you'll see it duplicated all the elements from A. So maybe for some reason this one goes across here, and I don't know, this goes here, and then we throw a door in here, and that's sort of option D, right? And so as you can see, what happens is all this stuff over here becomes part of the options. If I go back to C, that's the empty one. If I go to B.2, I go to B.1, and if I, whoa. Okay, so the idea of it is pretty simple. You just make an option and then you can model within it, and that's going to exist only within that exact that option, right? And that's why the empty piece works. But the unfortunate part is it does grow on you, and that's what I'm trying to show you here, is that when you start doing floor plan stuff, it just starts taking over, and you realize, well, this door was hosted to this wall was hosted to this floor, and now all of a sudden everything is in your option.
Jeff, I've got a question on that.
Yeah, let's do it.
So in particular, when you're dealing with renovation work, so you start with an existing phase and you've got everything that's existing. Mm-hmm. And now you start with some options. I've found this trouble happening. Like you said, things that are attached to, like if all I did was join a new wall to an existing wall, that existing wall gets sucked into the design option. So now if you're going to be copying these and making another option, I don't remember this because I haven't used it in a while because I was so frustrated with it. Does the existing wall, when it gets copied to the next option, does it remain an existing wall in an existing phase? Mm-hmm. Or does this thing now get assigned a new construction phase or something else? I mean, then you end up, what you don't want to do is find that all of your existing walls have disappeared from the original existing plan, because then all of a sudden it's like, where the hell did my demo go, and where did my walls go, and now I got to go find them again, and it's it took a lot to just build that existing building to begin with.
So the answer is the phasing is separate from the design option, which means you could have 30 of those existing walls in the exact same location, and all 30 of those can be demoed, as long as you're setting the demo plan to that option. And so the difference between like a design option versus doing like a work set or turning them off and stuff is those existing walls will not join or conflict with anything outside of their option, right? So if you were to take these and say, like, I'm going to throw all these, I'm going to use work sets instead or something like that for visibility, if you would immediately get an error that says, identical instance in the same place, right? Even though, because the phase is the phase, and so you'd have 4 existing walls on top of each other in the exact same location. Here, that existing wall only exists in your option. So option A has the existing wall, option B has existing wall, option C has existing wall. You would have to demo in every one of those options on their own, because now they're actually unique walls. They are not the same wall anymore. They go from 1 unique ID to 4 unique IDs that have to be demoed.
But they stay as existing phase.
You have
right? They still are considered existing walls.
Yeah, so you have.
And so then once you accept a design option as the primary, or you accept and just basically trash the rest of the design options, then it goes back and it's still an existing wall.
They maintain their phases no matter what. Yes. So like that example, if I jump back in that, because I do have that in that house example. So you guys can see Chris now. I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Now you saw my son, and then you should see Revit hopefully. Sweet. Okay. So
yeah, we see Revit.
Awesome. So this is an example, Chris, where if I go to existing, show complete. So you'll notice if I go to my existing plan, this is actually a bedroom here, right? Because right now my design option is set to whatever it is, right? But if I went to one of the options that actually has the existing wall, here it is there, option 3, right? So that's the existing layout. That wall exists in option 3, and these have their own phasing, right? So you can see this is existing, but it's not demoed in any of them. Whereas maybe in option B, notice how I have a demoed piece here. This wall is not the same as the one in the previous option. It's its own unique wall. And so for the actual sake of documentation, right, you would have to manage, which ones made sense. So for whatever reason, my primary option didn't have these in it. But if I was to go to, what was it, A? I don't remember. Yeah, it's the line. Right, so now here's my existing plan. I flipped it to option A, so now I'm seeing it, right? But remember, those walls only exist within that option A, right? So that's what I'm saying. It sort of takes over your model, and you have to be careful, but at the same time, they can be powerful. So as long as you're paying attention and you understand, I should probably undo all that phasing, considering that I probably should have went to the existing. Let me go back. Okay, don't want to ruin my beautiful plan.
So Jeff, if you are working in, multiple options, but you wanted to print out a file, a plan of just the existing, because you're going to go and, I don't know, check dimensions or something. If you went to a plan where you had a plan set to existing, would those walls show up?
Yes.
Okay.
So
even if your primary was the empty primary?
Correct, because you can set that view to be the option that has the existing walls, right? So for one of the things that I've done in the past to sort of help with this is if you start doing crazy chopping and slicing and dicing a building, is you could take the entire existing piece, maybe if it's the whole wing of the building or the whole wing of the house or something, and put that into one option, and then make a new option and start working on it, so that you always have an option that's your original existing stuff. There's nothing wrong with that. I could tell you from experience, the only time you're really going to start running into issues with too many options is on really, really big projects. Residential, it's never going to happen. If you're doing a 350, 400,000 square foot school and you've duplicated the thing 7 times in an option, you're going to start feeling performance issues. You're not going to run into it with a house. So,
right.
And some people end up taking the entire house and putting it into options, and they're running through those. I'm not a big fan of that, because, now you're managing basically 5 models within one model. Ideally, you're trying to minimize the amount of it.
Right.
So that's a great question. And that's exactly what this example is showing is I do have some, and I don't know why. Let me share my screen again. Make sure you guys can see it. Oh yeah, I'm definitely hitting some bandwidth here. Nice. Okay. Can you guys see Revit again? I do see you guys in the chat, by the way, coming in. I'm trying to read those in between. I'll read some of those in a second. So thank you so much for coming. You guys can't see Revit
Jeff,
right now?
No, we don't.
No, not yet.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm just having some low bandwidth issues here, so that's okay. Let me try again. How about now? Now can you see Chris?
No, we don't.
Just a gray screen.
Oh,
right now you're frozen.
Oh, you know what? I was sharing the wrong screen. It was doing weird stuff. Sorry about that. Let me try that again. All right, you can hear me though, right, guys? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you.
Okay, perfect. So let me try screen 2 again. Share.
All right, so it's gray right now.
How about now?
Still gray.
All right, so it's just having issues sharing with you guys. Okay, so let's do this. All right,
All right, we're seeing you.
now you're seeing me. Hello, hello. It looks like YouTube is still seeing my screen, which is good. So one more time, I'll try and share with you guys just to see. We'll share here.
Okay, now we see Chris.
All right. So yeah, I think we're just having some bandwidth things. So I'll try and click slower and see what happens. All right. So this one, Chris, what I was getting at is, especially here, for example, you could see here for this option we were bumping into the bathroom or into the bedroom. So there's a demo piece across here. So because of that, I had to, in option A, I have all the existing walls in here, but I had to have them there because I was also splitting it and changing it for option B. Otherwise, option A would still be there, and I'd have option B here, and there would be if the existing stayed outside of the options, I should say, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Jeff.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
I can. Yep.
Okay, so all right, so beyond design options, I mean, we understand design options show different design options.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to presenting the design options to the owner
Mm-hmm.
with a schedule or whatever, can you explain that?
That is a heck of a ringtone. You're not ignoring that, that's for sure. I'm not sure I know what you mean. Are you saying if you wanted to present multiple design options, whether it's through schedules or plans or rendering, something like that, to an owner, how would you manage that process? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So you would be managing multiple views. So schedules would have each design option would have its own schedule. Each floor plan would have its own view. So if I shouldn't have stopped sharing. I should just keep the screen sharing. Sorry, guys. All right. Do you guys see all yourselves now? No. Yeah. It's very strange. I think it has to do with. I changed my monitor here. It's a 2K monitor, and it's a 1080 monitor here. And I think there's something with the two different resolutions that is just messing with everything. I shouldn't have done that. All right, so let me just make sure I'm stopping sharing. Try again. Somebody likes your ringtone on YouTube, by the way, Jerry. I don't know if they're being sarcastic. It's hard to tell on YouTube.
Hey, man.
Do you guys see Revit?
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but it was my daughter calling.
Do you guys see Revit now?
We see gray.
Yeah, so that's what it's.
Yeah, your image is frozen.
Yeah, that's all right. Let me. Once I share, I'm just gonna make sure I keep sharing. You guys just may see some weird stuff in between. That's okay. Let's get you going. Now you see it? Looks like it. All right, sweet. So I'm not gonna stop sharing. Whatever. Okay. So what you would do is notice how I have these floor plans. I have option A, option B, option B2. I actually rotated them. I don't know why. I guess I must have presented in a different orientation. And so what I'm doing here is I'm dedicating these views to these specific options, right? So there's option B.2. So under visibility graphics, I'm in here, VG, design options. I'm changing this, B.1. So each of these views will always show this option, whether you change it, whatever you do. It doesn't matter what the primary is set to. These views will always show these options. One thing to be wary about is if you want to modify a different option, you would need to go to that dedicated view or change this one, because you'll notice this is option A. If I try and change option B2, well, guess what? I can't. It's not going to show it because this view is always dedicated to option A. So something to keep in mind there is, you may need a working view or something like that. But so now I have 3 views that I can export, print, do whatever I want. I can throw them on sheets. Doesn't really matter, right? These are just views inside of Revit. Same thing with exteriors, 3D views, etc. Obviously, for if you're using like a Lumion or a Twinmotion or something like that, you're going to need to export 2 models. 2 models of each option. You can see in the exteriors, if I go to VG, this is set to the primary. What I would want to do is say, this is option A. If I duplicate this one and I do option B, I go into VG. Oh, that's not it. I do option 2. Right, so there's option A and there's option B, I think. Yeah. So basically just the center of this butterfly slides up the roof is what happened there. And then as far as schedules are concerned, yeah, you're going to need, so if this is my partition schedule, which I should probably just make a new one from scratch because I don't even know what this one's trying. There's some filtering on this guy. Yeah, get rid of the filter. Get rid of that filter. Show all, new construction, show complete. I don't know what this schedule is. I'm gonna make a new one. So if I wanted to make like a wall schedule, for example, I'll just make one from scratch because I didn't do a wall schedule. Click OK. So if I just wanted, let's just say mark or type mark, and area. Keep it simple. All right. So there's all my walls. I could obviously add whatever columns I want. What you would need to do is you would need to dedicate this schedule to your design options. So if this is option A with the powder room, there's option A. If I wanted, this would have to be wall schedule option A. And then, you'd have to duplicate it and make one for option B, and then you dedicate that one to option B. So if I go into visibility graphics, I go up to walls and I change this one to B1, and then I guess let's do some totals so everyone can see. All right, area, we'll calculate totals, make sure we do grand totals. So you can see option A is showing 10,000 square feet, or option B is, and option A, of course I didn't do the filtering there, so let's do formatting, area, calculate totals, grand totals, is 10,367. So you can see option A and option B have different totals and they're showing different things. So you would need dedicated views or schedules to those. Does that answer your question, Jerry? Angela's nodding. That's it.
Okay, so looking at your screen, it's hard to see where the design options shows up on the left.
Mm-hmm. So it's in the properties under visibility graphics overrides when you're in a schedule. So it's up on the top where it says visibility graphic override.
Okay, so when you're in the schedule, you have to type in VB?
No, you can't. If you type in VV or VG, nothing happens. You have to go in the properties of the schedule on the top left. You have to go to where it says edit under graphics. And it's basically a VV VG window. It just, for some reason, you have to do it through the properties. I guess if you wanted to, you could set up no, I don't think you could set up a keyboard shortcut.
Okay, got it.
You see up on the top now? I know. I just realized that it's all I think this is all because this is a different resolution monitor. Sorry, guys. Next time for the office hour and happy hour, I'll make sure that the streaming stuff is on the 1080 monitor. I didn't think how that would affect it. So sorry about that. But yeah, so that's what you would do. You would actually dedicate. So in a floor plan or an elevation, you would be using VG or VV, because that, those views that's where the design options exist. When you're in a schedule, the only way to get to it is through the properties.
Okay, so I see graphics. It doesn't say design options, but you just have to click edit.
Yes, exactly. Yep. And I don't know if it'll show up if there's no design options. I actually don't. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. If there's no design options in your file, that's what I'm curious to try out right now. So if I did a quick schedule, new construction, sure, whatever. Yeah, so that tab will not be there unless you have design options in your project.
Okay, so like in the projects that I've been working on, yeah, I haven't pressed that button.
Yep.
So that's where my question was.
There it is. Awesome, man.
So it'll be nice to be able to create schedules for different options.
Yes. Yes, that's a very, very good thing to have. I'm just reading through some of the comments, seeing if there's any questions on there. So Scour talked about, he mentioned if Autodesk gives us the ability to change objects from one design option to another. So that's actually a pretty good question / comment. Is if you do have stuff in one option, the only way to get it into another option is copy and pasting it. So I guess what I didn't show is, let's say for some reason I wanted this building over here to be in a design option, but it's already modeled, so it's in my main model. What you would do is you'd have to, I'll just make a new option for it. Oh, this is the real one. Let me go back out of this. Hold on. So I'll go back to this massive one. So I'm going to go to design options, and I'll make a new set, and I'll call this one, what is that? Apartment building context or something. So maybe for some reason I want that on or off, or maybe I want a different design of that existing one. So I have an option 1 and option 2. So I have 2 options in here. So what you can do is you can select this element, and you can go to manage, and you can say add to set. And then you can go and you can add it to more than one set, or just one set within an option. So that's when you take something from the main model and pull it into an option. So if let's say I add it just to option 1 and click OK. So now this is an option 1. If I go to option 2, notice how it's not there anymore, right? That makes sense. If I go to option 1 and I select this, you'll notice under manage, if you try to go to add to set, there's an error that says none of the selected models can be added to this option set. So once they're inside a set, you can't just take it and add it to another set. The only way to do it is if you select it and you copy it, or Control C, depending on how you want to copy. You go into your option 2, and then you paste aligned, or same place, and now it's in option 2. So when you're in the main model, you can take an element and pop it into as many sets as many options within a set as you want. Once it's in an option, well, you'd have to copy it out to the main to do that, or you copy it to each individual set. So a little bit of pain in the butt, but not all that bad. I would say a majority of your design option stuff, you're going to be copying sets anyways, because you're probably just modifying certain little pieces of it. Yeah.
And Jeff, when you say you copy out to a set, you use modify copy.
Yes,
correct?
You have to use the clipboard copy.
Okay.
So Control C, modify copy, whatever you want to call it. You can't use CO. That's just copying in place. That won't do it. So you need the copy, and then you need to paste, align, or paste the same place. Whatever the paste is going to be. So I'm just reading a couple things here. If you guys have any more questions on the office hour, let me know. Can you add set without working inside an option? I think I just answered that question. So cool, man. But you'll have to set the parameter value for each duplicate. Yeah. So one of the things that they were talking about in the chat was the same thing, kind of what Chris was mentioning, is that once you put things in design options, they are unique elements now. So that comes back to the scheduling too, right? If you have this apartment building, or maybe we go back here and this, oops, where'd it go? Here it is. Nope. So, these walls, even if there's a wall in the same location, it's the same type. These walls, option A, this wall here, and option B, these have unique identifiers, and these are their own unique walls. So it's not like a work set where you're just hiding visibility of one element. You're actually it's duplicating the elements, and it's duplicating and making new GUIDs and all that good stuff. So just be wary of that, because when you accept primary, and what I mean by accept primary is, I don't want to do it on this one. Let me go to the massing one, and I'll save as before doing it. So if now, ideally by the time you're done, hopefully you've decided what your design's going to be, and maybe you actually get rid of design options. I'm just going to save this as accepted primary so that when you guys get the sample files, I don't screw it up. Okay, so, let's say I like... oops, I have this dedicated. Let me turn this off. Sorry. So let's say... So if I flip through these... Right, I have a simple mass, I have a twisted mass, I have a funky mass, and then I have this crazy mass. So let's say I like twisted mass the most. And so now I just want to get rid of the other ones and have my model have twisted mass. So what you need to do is you need to make that your primary. So I go under Manage, Design Options, and I go to Twisted Mass, and I say Make Primary. Okay, so now that's the defaulted one. Okay, and then what I do is... I click the option set. You can't click the option, you have to click the actual set, and I say accept primary. By doing that, it's going to delete every other option within that set, and it's going to make that primary option, whatever it is, it's going to make it the main model again. So notice how they're gone. And if I get out of here, this guy is now just a mass within my model. Okay, so that's what I mean by accepted primary. And so when I was talking about sort of on the Turner side of things, that's why, it makes our lives easier depending on what we're doing as far as scheduling and takeoff, like you just mentioned, Jerry. So the reality is, if we get a model where there's thousands of options, we're just going to accept primary down the board, because how do we know which design option we're supposed to price unless you told us, right? That's kind of the thing that comes up there.
Jeff, I have experienced a couple of times, first of all, when I've gone through design options and then accepted, I find that there are a lot of duplicate walls in the same spot. If I had them, if I had the same wall, let's say like in the house example, you have that existing wall between the bedroom and, the dining room. And you accept, it gets duplicated into all the different options. I have found myself with hey, there's 5 different walls here. Sometimes that happens. So that's one thing to pay attention to. And then the other thing is, if you have, let's say you have the main image be an existing building without any changes to it, and that's your main option. And then you go through what you're showing about copying something. Let's say I know I'm going to be working on this particular wall. I'm going to copy it to 5 different options. Now I've got five existing walls in options, plus I have the one in the main. So now when I go ahead and schedule, for instance, isn't it duplicating? If I do a schedule of existing I guess if I only schedule the new, then it's only going to show me the new stuff. But if I do a schedule on an option that includes existing, isn't it going to be duplicated?
So if they're in different option sets, yes. So when it comes to I gotta close this one, get out of this thing. So when it comes to, so for example, if I go to design option, so whatever exists in the set itself, like option A and option B can never be scheduled in the same schedule at the same time, right? Because they're in their own set. But yes, if you have duplicate walls from this one, in this set, then in theory you can have them both showing in the same schedule or in the same plan at the same time, right? So it's really,
So
and
that's
existing's
why.
the same way. It doesn't matter what phase. Remember, this is all, the phasing doesn't make a difference. It's separate from phasing. So yeah, it could be existing, could be
Right.
new. It doesn't matter as long as they're in the same set. They're not. You can't. There's no way for me to schedule the walls from B point, from B and A in the same schedule.
So would you say it's safe to say that anything you feel that you're never going to put into the options, like, the existing walls around the bathroom there on the top of the screen, that they shouldn't be in any options, or maybe you make an option set that is only the existing building, and then you start other option sets with the stuff that's going to change?
Oh, I think I see what you're saying now. So, if
Yeah,
you're saying you don't want these scheduled or something like that, right?
yeah.
Because they're in the main model. So yeah. So your schedule is going to
Or you
show,
want to schedule them,
right? Or
or you
you.
actually want to schedule them. Let's say you're doing, a takeoff for painting or something,
Hmm.
and you know that they're all going to get painted. So the existing walls may not be demoed or
Hmm.
may not be changed in any way, but they're still going to be counted in a schedule.
Right.
The problem is that if one wall happens to be part of the
Hmm.
change, it could get scheduled multiple times.
Yes and no. So if you're dedicating the schedule to one of the options, it's going to show the main and it's going to show the options. So the only way that you'll have duplicating is if you have the same wall in the main that you have in the option, which won't happen,
Hmm.
right? Ideally, because then you'd have an overlapping wall and you'd have an error and it would yell at you anyways, right? Because
Yeah.
if that wall is infringing on the option to the point where it's overlapping, it's probably going to tell you that it needs to be part of the option anyways, right? So
Okay.
so I don't think so. The one thing I would say is that what you could do is instead of because again options are really more like visibility visibility things, not phase things, is you could also just pump different parameters into the walls that help you filter the schedules, right? So
Right.
so an
Right.
example, if I wanted to know, option A, option A powder room, and I only wanted to know, all these walls, right, in a schedule, what I would do for that is I would do something like, giving them some sort of parameter that helps me understand that, whether it's comments, mark, whatever. So let's just say this is
Right.
option A. So I just put a comment in all these walls that say option A. And so now, regardless of phase, regardless of main model versus option, if I'm just making where's the wall schedule I made? If I do a wall schedule for option A, now I can just say, I'm just going to filter these by comment equals, right? And then I'm going to do option A. Now it doesn't matter because I'm
Right.
only going to get, well, of course, I screwed this up because I'm not itemizing, but you get the idea.
Yeah, no, I get the idea. But if you wanted to have all the walls to get, a price for painting,
And that's what this.
for one option versus another, then you're doing more. You're getting the main model. You
Yep.
want to schedule the main model plus what's in whatever option.
Exactly, and that's what these are doing here. So that's
Yeah.
what just doing a schedule
Yeah.
and applying the option here to it is going to do. And that's why you can see this one
Yeah.
for option B, I'm getting 1,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet, and then for option A, I'm getting 10,367 square feet.
So that means that if I've got like one wall particular that is an existing wall that I'm going to put in multiple options, I should remove it from the main model essentially. It shouldn't be in the main
you're gonna
model.
have to,
It should
right?
just be in the options.
Correct. If it's being
Yeah,
modified
it
through
should just
the
be in the
options.
options. Then eventually it'll go back to it if
Yes, exactly.
I
Yep.
simply just accept everything and make accept the primary and wipe out all the options.
Exactly, and that's why I was saying it's
Okay.
almost like, I don't like saying it's like a weed, a design option. Like you start in one area and you saw that powder room, it how much more of the area it actually took up just to show three options of the powder
Yeah.
room, and even the exterior
Yeah.
wall. If I go back to that 3D view, what started with just showing the butterfly roof. It basically it's either here or it's centered up here to give them more height in this room, and there was like a little loft area. What you'll see is that look how much stuff had to become part of the option right? All of this isn't part of it, but all of this, and it started with, oh, I just need to do this room. But the reality is, you know, when you realize that this wall is hosted to this roof, which is hosted to this wall, which is then hosted to this wall, all of a sudden you're dumping everything in an option. So it gets tricky, but it's doable, as you can see. And you know, it's not the end of the world. And what I'm saying is, by the time you're making documents and you're starting to refine it, hopefully you've decided on most of these and you're accepting primary, and then the options are gone, right? It's ideally, but that's kind of what happens. This is how, you know, just something as simple as sliding this valley up to here. All of a sudden now I've got to take all of these walls as part of it. But you notice these walls don't have to be all these grayed out walls because they're not hosted to anything over there. All right. Oh man, it's already 8:41. Look at you guys. And people are still hanging around YouTube. Wow. Pretty cool. I saw a couple questions on YouTube that I think we answered as we were chatting here. Somebody asked about how do you export a design option to Twinmotion or Enscape. You would just Twinmotion and Enscape and most of the exporters use whatever view you're in. So you would just dedicate your view to that option and just export from that view. So if I wanted option 2 as my export, I would just dedicate this view to option 2 and then export it. You know, I go here, dedicate option 2, and then export it. So no problem there. Can you regrade the ground? No, the view reference design option. Cool. Awesome. All right. Whew, man. Any questions, Jerry, Chris, anyone out there? You guys good right now?
Yeah, I think that's pretty good.
I know it's late, and I know we're over the time limit.
Yeah.
If you want to expand, if people want to stick around.
Yeah.
Do you ever use design? Do you ever use design options for other reasons, like visibility graphics?
Oh yeah.
That
feels like a setup question, man. How'd you know? All right. So yes. So, on the construction side of things, and I guess this could still go along to the architecture side of things. You guys are still seeing my Revit screen, right, Jerry? Sweet. Okay. So this is actually the original file. So I cleaned it up a little bit for massing, but this was the original file. This was a set of logistics plans and whatnot, and you'll see I have a whole bunch of views over here. And if I go through this, I have site complete, I have site with excavation, and there's fencing around it. So these are actually set up for Twinmotion exports. You can see there's fencing around this. Then there's just the building foundations. Then just the building steel. With some things going on. And now if I pull up options, you'll see I've got a whole bunch here. So one of my big things, and this is where I think it's going to get, and we're going to keep going because there's actually a ton of people. There's like 250 on YouTube. So people are into this, which is pretty sweet. I'm a little bit Zoom fatigued today. I'm sure you guys are all feeling it, but man, when you're hosting and doing video conferences all day long, it kills you. But we're going to keep going. So this is kind of the file here. I'm going to go to a different view that's cleaner. If I go to my options, so a lot of people will use work sets for visibility. And I'm going to say something controversial and say that's a terrible freaking idea. So design options aren't necessarily the best route for this, but for us, for what we're doing, it makes sense. And for what you're doing, maybe work sets kind of make sense. But the one reason I will tell you work sets are a terrible idea. There are two reasons, actually. One is if you send me your model and I just say detach and discard work sets, well, guess what? All your visibility stuff is gone, right? It's gone forever and ever and ever and ever, right? So there's one reason. The other reason is you will get overlapping objects and hosting objects, and all of you guys have probably run into this where because the objects stay in the model and they're just being turned off, if you have like wall joins and stuff, you're going to run into some crazy stuff. Not to mention that's not what work sets were designed for, but I'm not going to go through that soapbox right now. But when it comes to things like what we're doing here, which is we're phasing the job, so to speak, what I have in here are a bunch of different options that let us turn on and off things. And you'll notice the big thing here is we actually have a lot of offs set up. for the primaries, and then we have the ability to turn different things on based on those. So a perfect example would be the fencing, which, let's see, penthouse pass, microrizes. So fencing and dirt, and then empty demo site. So this one, unfortunately, I guess I should have picked a different example. It doesn't have multiple variations for fencing, but usually if we do, it's an easy way to do it. You don't have to worry about phasing, because once you implement phasing, right, it gets extremely complicated and annoying, especially if the architectural model is linked in and you don't need to deal with that. So if I go to fencing, and I go to fencing and dirt and click apply, you'll see, here's the fencing going around the building. I guess that's just the front fencing there. Let me jump out of here. So we have different versions of fencing. These are just 3D dates for my export, and so I can flip through 3D dates. And so what I'm using design options here for is literally just controlling visibility. So the default is kind of off basically on a lot of these things, and then the design option is turning on, and then I can flip through them. So I don't want to show that one. Ramp on, no. Steel edge protection. So here's a good one. So we're for this particular project, what we're doing is we're linking in a Revit file from the architect, and that's changing. This Revit file is going to be modified forever, right? And so we don't want to copy it in and then have to recopy it and modify it as it comes through. So this is just linked in, but you'll notice that things like fencing and protection around the edge, we actually are using design options for those. So if I click in here, you can see the edge protection and the fall protection, all this stuff is a design option, because now when it changes, I can just modify it. It's not affecting anything else. But then when I go to something like the curtain wall progress, maybe the curtain wall has different edge protection. So you can see there's more edge protection up here, and all we did here was we hid the first floor, or the top few floors, and use section boxes in tricky ways to hide stuff. And we're actually not doing anything to phase the actual architectural model. So keeping the model itself intact while being able to show a building look like it's being built. So you can see there's the edge protection there and certain things. So that's kind of some of the tricks we get into with design options, and that's really what it is. And I think we had a little discussion too online, and I'm sure people have mentioned that something like if you have Enscape and using Enscape assets, that's a great example where you can make a blank, an empty set, and then you can put Enscape assets in another one. Site is another one. I don't think we had much site phasing in this. Let me see. Yeah, this one didn't have it. So if there was a bunch of site phase and moves and excavation and stuff like that, those things might be in design options. And instead of trying to phase a Revit project a bazillion times, it makes it a lot easier to manage them that way. So, it looks like Dave on the YouTube channel said, Jeff, so you're essentially using design options in place of phasing. Yes. Yes. So we have done it both ways, but the honest truth is for how we're utilizing these models and what we're using them for. These are container models where architectural design elements are coming in, and where those are being updated over time. These become the backdrop that change, and design options become way easier to manage these processes. When it becomes a pain in the butt is when these design options get huge, and if you end up start doing whole buildings and all that crap. But does that answer your question a little bit? Is that a cool use of it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Another great example is temp walls. We do a lot of like axon views showing temp walls interior wise. That's a perfect example. If you add a phase, let's say you add a phase after new construction, and then you draw temp walls, and then maybe there's 3 locations for those temp walls that change. Well, then you're going to need another phase after that, another phase after that. You're going to have to demo in the original phase, demo in the other one. You're dealing with phasing drawings for something that's just 4 or 5 moving sub phases. That's a perfect example where you throw in a design option, you can model it. You're not dealing with all the other model elements there, and you can control them pretty quickly. The downfall with it is, as I mentioned, you cannot change the order, right? You can't change the order of design options. So guess what? If you start adding sub-phases in between phases that already exist, they're going to be at the end of your list of design options because you can't freaking change the order of them.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's one of those Revit options that you just forget about, and it
Yes.
can be extremely valuable.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And I know somebody mentioned on the YouTube thing, he said, for what you're doing for phasing and stuff, that makes a ton of sense. From the architectural design side, it makes me cringe. Yes, that's a good point. It's you may not want to, when it comes to phasing, you may not want to use design options for that. There may be some uses for it, sure. But I think understanding phasing and demolition and how that all works is huge with architecture, because if you understand it, you're basically drawing your demo drawings as you build your model. So it's got to do that. But of course, as you start introducing, and I've worked on plenty of jobs where there's 7, 8, 9 phases in an architecture model, it does get really confusing, because what are you demoing, what are you keeping, and as you march down it, and how your graphics are set up, right? Because what you're phasing before what you're demoing can be really confusing when you have more. When you have new construction existing, super simple, right? But if you introduce 5 or 6 phases, then the demo plans and all that stuff become extremely a pain in the ass. So good point, Dave. Thanks for mentioning that. I guess I should have said that before a bunch of architects go back to their office and start freaking throwing design options and everything. I apologize to all the BIM managers out there who are cringing. Awesome. Any other questions, guys? YouTube on the office hour? Helpful? Cool? Sweet. Looks like the YouTube channel is slowing down. Awesome. Looks like everyone was into design options. There's a ton of people and they're still hanging out. So thanks, guys, for hanging out with us live. Thanks for coming on. Jerry and Chris and the crew, and Mark, how you guys doing? I'll set up another office hour soon for us internally, and I'll post that in the community. It looks like maybe another question. Dave said, I'm not sure you mentioned the work share downfall. So Dave is just mentioning, he was kind of talking about how I was talking about work sets and work sharing, and I guess that is one thing to keep in mind. If you are using work sets and design options in the same model, I do believe once you enter an option, you own that work set and no one else can touch it. So for those of you who work in work set and central files and all that stuff, you can imagine that that can be a pain in the butt. So be wary of that. So yeah, those of you out on YouTube, thank you for joining us. Again, if you're interested and you like this format, we do this every other week at least, as much as possible. We do these live chats. So check it out. It's at community.bimafterdark.com. You can get in there right now. And as well as sample files. I didn't mention that. So all the sample files I showed here, I post those in the community channel. Also, all of my tutorials on the blog, I post the sample files in the community. So a lot of perks to that. Definitely check it out. And then everyone here from the community, thank you for joining me tonight. I think this was kind of cool, something different. I'll be live again on Thursday. Aaron Mahler is joining me from Parallax team, and we're going to be talking about templates, which is another hot topic in the community. So that'll be kind of fun to follow up with the community afterwards and chat more about it. When I think of templates and deployment, the one guy I think of is Aaron Mahler, and he's drumming up some template tips for everyone, and we're going to chat templates. So tackling some really tough Revit content here. I know I do a lot of the sexy stuff with Enscape, but these are topics that not a lot of people want to touch. So thanks for sticking with me and letting me do this. Any last words from the community? You guys good?
No, we're good. Thank you. This was terrific.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I'm going to log off the stream now. And again, everyone, thank you so much. We'll see you on Thursday.